Hello and welcome to another edition of Morning Hoops Basketball Podcast. I am Anthony Denu. You can find me on Twitter at Anthony Denu. He is Kyle McKeown. You can find him on Twitter at RotoKyleNBA. Are you raising the roof right now?
I'm always, whenever I get introduced, I always raise the roof on like every podcast.
Yeah.
And it's not even purposeful. It's like, it's voluntary. I'm just like, I grew up raising the roof. So it's like when I hear my name, I'm like, yeah, let's go. Let's get the party started. And then as I was doing it, I noticed the little vinyl basketball I had on the wall and I tried to shoot it like an optical illusion.
Yeah.
People who are listening to the podcast have no idea what we're talking about. But if you watch on YouTube, hey, you get the gag.
Oh my goodness. All right. So limited schedule tonight in the NBA with just 4 games, which is, I guess, more than a normal Thursday. But before we get to run down some games, your favorite player had some big news today.
Yeah, our boy Carmelo Anthony had his non-guaranteed contract guaranteed. The Trailblazers had until January to make a decision on it, and they said, hey, you know what? This pal has played so great for us thus far that we're just going to guarantee his minimum contract right now, show him a little bit of support and solidarity, and let him know that we want him to continue to play well for us. And Carmelo played great in Wednesday's game, so there's, I'm not really here to throw crap at him when he doesn't deserve it, but you mind yourself, Carmelo.
Right. Okay, so here's what my big question is. What do you think he's going to make next year? Let's say he signs somewhere, another 1-year deal. How much is he going to make more than he's making this year?
Hold on. Let's his contract was guaranteed, but Carmelo hasn't even been on the team for like 3 weeks. I'm still not buying that this whole thing's going to last the entire season. Because what happens when Zach Collins comes back? What happens when Yusuf Nurkic is back? Like, I don't know, man. Things might become a little bit more convoluted later in the season if this team does get healthy. And it's Carmelo. He's got ego issues.
Could your starting 5 not be Dame, CJ, Melo?
You can't play
Melo at the 3.
The widely held belief about Carmelo is the idea that he can't play the 3 defensively in the league today.
Right.
But then again, I mean, Rodney Hood's there, and I'm not the biggest Rodney Hood fan, so sure, why not? And then especially if you're looking at the added defensive ability of Zach Collins to the starting lineup and having a second rim protector available on the court, maybe you do say, all right, we can handle Carmelo's perimeter defense. And I mean, we'll just essentially, you're just going to be probably changing things a lot with the forwards anyway, or sharing different defensive duties. So maybe it's not that big of an issue.
God, they're just a weirdly put together team right now. And when they do get healthy, it's going to be a little bit clunky, but I'm interested to see how the pieces all fit, because obviously there was no plans of ever having Carmelo Anthony on this team. And now when they do get healthy and he's there, what exactly does Terry Stotts do? So
HP Basketball on Twitter, Hardwood Paroxysm, Matt Moore, I believe is his real name, said Melo's got a plus 7.1 net rating right now and the second best on-off differential on the team behind McCollum. Maybe I was wrong and he's just good now, or was always good, or whatever satisfies you. So, I think Matt's one of those guys that has been fairly critical of Carmelo, because Matt looks at the advanced analytics, and defensively Carmelo's always lacked there. And he's also been a ball stopper and a lot of stuff that from the modern game people get frustrated with. The fact that he likes to hang out in the mid range if he had his preference, which is kind of considered a faux pas in today's game, unless you're exceptionally good at being a mid range shooter. And that's just not necessarily what Carmelo has always been. Whatever, it's working out. It didn't
really have anywhere to go.
Hey man, positivity all the way. So I apologize if my negativity towards Carmelo over the last week and a half or so has been down for anybody, but ultimately, man, if he succeeds, he succeeds. Just keep that ego in check, bro.
Oh my goodness. All right. Should we get into tonight's action?
Please.
All right. So the Wizards beat Philadelphia 119 to 113. And it was close at the end, but the Sixers could not pull it out. And what do you want to say something?
No, I just that they couldn't pull it out. They obviously did because they didn't win or climax in this game. But
very good.
Yes,
okay. Only our couch pulls out on this podcast.
Exactly. That was a really bad name from that guy. Oh man, I love him though. He passed away. Personal stuff that we'll talk about later. Washington Wizards win this game. I don't think anybody would have came into this game thinking that the Wizards were going to be able to pull out a win over the Philadelphia 76ers, but the Wizards got the job done behind great shooting from Davis Bertans, who continues to come off the bench for them, but plays a big role right now with Thomas Bryant being out for likely another 5 or 6 weeks. We're going to probably continue to get big minutes from Bertans, even if he continues to come off the bench for the Wizards. Bertans hit 6 of 6 from deep in the first half and then struggled opening up the second half, ended up finishing 7 of 13 from 3-point land, scored 25 points, 1 rebound, 1 steal. Not a lot of production outside of his scoring, but Bertans definitely makes himself felt and seen out there on the defensive end due to his energy, even if he sometimes will overplay due to his energized play out there.
Some guy is one of my favorite people on Twitter, and some guy tweeted that Davis Bertans is a 6'10" Kyle Korver in his prime.
I like it.
Speaking of Twitter, Dr. Ed Foot Doc messaged into the show and says, "Nobody beats the Wiz." Anybody remember that? Is that a Seinfeld reference?
It might be. I don't
I'm
remember.
the Wiz. No, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'll let you figure that one out and share it later. Other interesting things from this game: Rui Hachimura got 43 minutes, led the team in minutes there for the Wizards. 11 of 18 from the field to finish with 27 points, 1 3-pointer, 4 of 4 from the line, 7 rebounds, 2 steals. Rui Hachimura gets a lot of flack, but when I watch him play, I think there's things to like about what he does. And then you find out that he started playing basketball at a later age. So it makes you feel like, okay, even though he played several years in college, I see more hope for Rui Hachimura than what I think a lot of people see. What have you thought of him so far?
I think he's been really good. I know the last few weeks haven't been the best, but he's turned it around a little bit, especially with this game. I think that he's been a really good player, and I know that
played 1 year at college. I'm an idiot.
Oh, he only played 1 year at Gonzaga?
Yep.
Oh,
but he is 21 years old, so he's a little bit older of a rookie. But again, it's just, a lot of what they've talked about with Rui is the idea that he's extremely intelligent. And when you listen to him talk, the guy, he comes across as someone who's very self-aware. And anybody who has that mindset of being reflective, you would hope that they would be able to put that into action in regards to playing basketball better, improving on the game, acknowledging where they have their mistakes and working to improve them. And I think that's one of the aspects about Rui that appealed to the Wizards when they drafted him higher than what most people expected this last draft. But obviously a big reason why they got him too is his marketability overseas. But I guess I've been impressed with Rui. I think he's exceeded my expectations. I don't think that he's I think people probably don't like the fact that he's not as smooth moving, with or without the ball. But if that's the biggest issue with him, and he can still get his shot off and command the ball and work hard out there to at least try to make an impact on defense, I think I'm fairly optimistic about what he's going to become going forward, or at least the idea that Rui Hachimura can be a player who is a starter in this league and contributing on a team that is winning. I think a lot of the flack he gets is just premature. Like, let's give him some time and see how he adapts in his first 2 seasons in the league. And then we can start to say whether or not he's a winning player. But maybe I just need to watch him more to see some of the holes in his game that a lot of other people are seeing.
Even though he's 21 and a rookie, which is so weird to think that not all that long ago that was a young rookie, he's going to get better, and he's already a solid player. I think he's going to be at least a rotational guy. I know he's getting really as much run as he possibly can on a team that he has to do it. I mean, he's a starter, and he's going to get starters minutes the rest of the way. I don't see that changing whatsoever. So he's going to get all the chance he can to improve. And I think that like fluidity, like you talked about, and how he moves on the court, all that stuff comes in time. And we might be talking about how that was, a bygone issue by the time we get to the All-Star break. Who knows?
Some other things of note from the Washington Wizards side of things. Mo Wagner got the start at center with Thomas Bryant being out, of course. And Wagner wasn't exactly great. 5 points, 11 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal in his 26 minutes. But based on what we've seen from Wagner so far this season, you would expect him to have better production going forward, the potential for more minutes with Thomas Bryant being out. And then the big worry for Wagner is he's had such a high foul rate off the bench for the Wizards this season. And off the bench, you can manage that because he's not going to be playing bulk minutes most nights. But now that he's starting at center, we're definitely going to need to see a more concentration and more of an effort to avoid getting into foul trouble so he can stay on the court longer. Off the bench for the Wizards, Jan Mahinmi made his season debut after sitting out with Achilles soreness for most of this year. And it's somewhat suspect to me that you've got Jan Mahinmi sitting out with an Achilles soreness issue, which is kind of this nebulous thing where you don't know exactly how long a guy's going to be out. And then as soon as they have Thomas Bryant go down with a big injury and they need a big man to come in and fill in some minutes, boom, all of a sudden Jan Mahinmi's available. Little conspiratorial in some regard, but I just thought the timing was convenient at least.
Nebulous is the official word of the day for the podcast. That's official. Put a stamp on it. Okay, so the trivia question of the day, followed by the word of the day. What is the name of the Washington Wizards mascot?
It's not Bernie, is it?
No.
Then I have no idea.
All right. We'll see if anyone wants to throw it up there in the comments section.
Oh, was I even supposed to guess, or did I almost just ruin it?
I think Bernie is from the Heat. No, I think you were supposed to guess, but I think Bernie is a different. Like he's Bernie, that's why he's the Heat mascot.
Sure, I just had no idea, man.
Oh, okay, you did a good job.
The Brooklyn Knight. I have no idea. From the Sixers side of things on this game, Joel Embiid had his first Barbara Walters game of the season, 26 points, 21 rebounds, 1 3-pointer made, 11 of 14 from the free throw line, 7 of 12 overall, 8 turnovers for Joel Embiid. So not pretty there. 7 turnovers for Ben Simmons, not pretty there either. But Simmons did have 17 points, 10 assists, and 3 steals. Simmons has just been racking up the steals of late, and that's been great to see.
Yeah, 8 of 10 too from the field. So good 80% tonight for Ben Simmons. Should we move on to the next game of the night?
Almost. Josh Richardson was also out for the Sixers, so we got to see quite a bit of Matisse Thybulle off the bench there. 31 minutes, 2 of 4 from the field, 1 of 3 from three-point land, but also chipped in 6 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. Matisse Thybulle is a guy who's known for his great defensive production in college at Washington, I believe he played. And now that he's coming to the NBA, he's he quickly earned a role, lost a role because his aggressive defense would often lead to a lot of fouls, and that was creating inconsistency for Brett Brown that he didn't like having in the rotation necessarily. So then we saw Matisse get his minutes dialed back. Now we're seeing them ramp up a little bit with Richardson out, and hopefully this is going to lead to a more consistent role for Thybulle going forward because he's an exciting defensive player to watch. All right. And then I'm sorry, one last note about the Wizards. Isaiah Thomas was out for them, so we did get to see a big game from Ish Smith as the fill-in starter at point guard there. 19 points, 8 assists. Bradley Beal struggled with his shot, 7 of 24 from the field, but still got the work done at the free throw line, 11 of 13, ended up finishing with 26 points, 10 rebounds, and 4 assists. All right, Anthony. Yes, my friend.
There you go.
We can finally go on to the next game. I just thought all those things were notable. Sorry.
No, that's fair. Wizards got their 7th win, and the Sixers got their 7th loss on the season.
All right, we are moving on to the Denver Nuggets versus the New York Knicks. This was a blowout and a half. Denver just beat the Knicks down, and we saw Nikola Jokic put up 6 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, 1 block, just 3 of 7 from the field in his 25 minutes. Do you think Nikola Jokic is going to turn it around, or do you think his cheeseburger ways are going to kind of make him sluggish all season?
Someday I'd like to see him I want to see him fit. I want to see him look like just an assassin. And aggression has been an issue so far this season, and really not getting to the free throw line, especially the last week or so. If you look at the numbers, it's incredible. And tonight in 25 minutes did not get to the free throw line even once. So that to me is the issue with Jokic. And maybe he's not getting some calls, but a lot of that, you look at the amount of points and shots taken, I think he has to be more aggressive as well.
I think some of it's schematically for this team in regard to how they're playing things out right now. But you're right. He's been struggling with his shot. Ultimately, I expect it to come around. He'll get back to his averages. I'm not too worried about it. And after kind of having a lot of people asking me about Jokic lately, I took a little bit of a deeper look at him on Thursday, and he looks the same as he did last year. This dude was fat last year. It's not, or overweight, however you want to put it. And it is what it is, but he's young enough that it's not going to, it's not going to put him out of the league like it did Tractor Trailer right away. He's still just 24. And with all the, who knows, maybe with all the chubby jokes that are getting thrown around on social media this season, maybe he goes into the next summer and decides to care about that, or maybe he doesn't, which would impress me even more, because you do you, big man. Especially as much as we're talking about him struggling, he's still one of the top 40 players in the league right now. So yeah, I don't know, whatever.
He'll be fine.
Exactly. Anything else of note from the Nuggets side of this game for you?
A plus 33 for Beasley off the bench in 24 minutes, but I mean, it's always hard to really analyze a blowout like this. And it was somewhat to be expected. The Knicks are just not very well put together. And
I'll keep my Michael Porter Jr. segment short this podcast, but he played just 5 minutes in a game where the Nuggets were up by 40 at one point, going into the fourth. So it just doesn't make any sense to me that this... it doesn't make any sense to me that Michael Porter Jr. wouldn't have maybe even gotten a start in this game. You're playing on the road. Give Paul Millsap a night off. Give Will Barton a night off. Who knows? Or just if there's one game you're going to play Michael Porter Jr., whatever, man. On the Knicks side of things, something that was, there's a lot to talk about from the Knicks side of things, because they got beat up so bad. The owner and the front office guys that were sitting in their seats watching the game, they left their seats early. Some of the reporters that cover the Knicks said that is not a typical thing for the front office people and the ownership to leave their seats early before the game is over. So maybe they went to go have a meeting, or maybe Dolan just went to go yell at them, or who knows exactly what's going on with this Knicks front office. They could have just, I would hope that they're pissed, and I would hope that we're going to see some kind of changes. But unfortunately, we continue to see Taj Gibson start at center. We had Frank Ntilikina back after he missed the previous game with a back issue. Marcus Morris Sr. was back after he missed 2 games with a neck issue that he said was his 1-year-old kid, landing on his back, on his neck the wrong way, or they were playing together and he injured. I've got a 1-year-old nephew, and I can't even fathom how that would happen. Now, if you're I just literally cannot, how are you playing with a kid rough enough, especially a 1-year-old, that is whatever. I just can't see it. So part of me thinks it's a malarkey story, and we'll see about that. But anyways, Marcus Morris was back in action. 10 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 block, just 4 of 13 from the field in his 26 minutes. And Julius Randle was terrible in this game. I really want us to see a lot of changes to this rotation. So that's why I'm kind of stuttering over my words right now, because I'm sitting here and I want to say things like they should just start RJ Barrett at point guard. But unfortunately, we're probably going to see Elfrid Payton move into the starting point guard role soon, because he was back in action finally after missing the last 17 games with a hamstring issue. I guess, where do you see this going for the Knicks? Do you expect someone to get fired right now, Anthony? And if they do fire somebody, is it wholesale changes with the front office, since this is obviously not just a coaching issue, but a roster issue? Or is James Dolan just so dysfunctional as an owner that we just see kind of surface changes again to help control the narrative in the media?
I'd never know what to think or expect. I mean, some starting lineup changes, maybe somebody gets fired. There's such a mess that nothing will shock me, and there's nothing they could do that I would say, all right, now they're gonna turn it around. Like, what could they possibly do between now and the next game, or now and January 1st, or the end of the season, whatever, that's going to make you say, all right, it seems like they've really bottomed out, and now they're on the way back up. Like, nothing could happen. I mean, yeah, you could start the 5 potential, cornerstones, I guess, of the future for the Knicks, but they're going to suck for a while regardless. And then you have these weird pieces coming off the bench too, that I'm not sure that would fit either. I mean, they're just such a mess, an absolute mess.
The thing is, like, if Fizdale, it blows my mind sometimes how long it takes coaches to realize certain things that the analysts have all come to some kind of like general consensus on. Like the fact that for the Bulls this year, it's taken so long for Thomas Satoransky to really get over 30 minutes per game as the starting point guard on that team, when it's just obvious, if you know about his game, how perfect of a fit he is to play next to a player like Zach LaVine, in that he's going to help facilitate. He's going to only care about defense. He's a bigger guard at 6'7" than even Zach LaVine is. So if you have another player like Kobe White that you want to bring in that needs to guard the point guard, you can shift Thomas Satoransky up to small forward. Like the analysts on Twitter were talking about a lot of this stuff for since the summer when Satoransky was signed. Yet we come into the Bulls season and there's just a misuse of the available resources on the team in the rotation. And that's another thing. As bad as this Knicks roster is, Fizdale is so blind to the options that he has on the team. And it's what's ironic about it is probably one of his best and most misused options is Alonzo Trier or Wayne Ellington, guys who are shooters who were brought to this team to provide that skill and who are obviously like that's their main skill right now. You need shooters in around all these guys, but what does he do? He just keeps putting all these guys in who don't stretch the floor. He complains about the team's 3-point shooting after the game, saying that they were getting killed by the 3-point line, which if that's true, call the authorities. And sorry, that was a really terrible joke. There's options on this team that I think could actually make the Knicks competitive from night to night if they would just put the right pieces out there together. But Fizdale apparently thinks that it's all just like, we're going to put the perceived most talented guys out there or the perceived most consistent guys out there. But that's not even if you make that argument, it's not really true when you look at the roster. It's just his narrow perception based on the fact that like certain guys are quote unquote veterans like Taj Gibson. Just what are you doing starting him? On a positive note for the Knicks from Thursday night, Mitchell Robinson did play 30 minutes off the bench, was 6 of 8 from the field, 5 of 8 from free throw line, finished with 17 points, 7 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals, 1 block. One of his steals was awesome. He just went at Mason Plumlee out near the perimeter and said, give me that ball, and then ran with it. His 17 points from Mitchell Robinson, it's the third time this season that he scored 17 points. And I guess my final question about this game to you, Anthony, is do you think that there's a little bit more upside in Mitchell Robinson's offensive game, or was he just does he just kind of get lucky with a lack defense around the rim or inability for people to match up with his athleticism?
I think in today's NBA, if he's surrounded by enough shooters that he can be a rim runner, and that's fine. I think as long as he can score within 3 to 5 feet, I don't think he's going to have too many issues. As I said, as long as they have shooters around him. The big thing for Mitchell Robinson, more than his offensive game, he did not have a foul in 30 minutes. That's unreal. So that's got to be the biggest highlight for the Knicks, I think, of all tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the one bugaboo about his game that's kind of helped. Well, one of the other bugaboos, besides the fact that he's got Fizdale as coach, that's limited his production so far in his first 2 seasons in the NBA. But it sucks though too when you look at the correlation of, okay, he stayed out of foul trouble, but he also only got 1 block. Whereas the thing about Mitchell Robinson is that he's supposed to be a prolific shot blocker. So that's all I really have to say on that game. Anything else from you, brother?
No, I think that's it. I think we can move on to the Raptors and Rockets. Rockets winning this one by 10, 119 to 109. This was on NBA TV.
Yes, it was. And this is one of the, if you want to have an argument for why the NBA ratings are down, maybe don't put your best game of the night, your marquee game of the night on NBA TV, where only people with cable subscriptions or special overpriced app subscriptions can access it. The only way for people to go get this is if they go and they pirate it, which you're not probably getting your ratings numbers from those pirated streams. So figure that out, NBA TV. Even, if you go on the League Pass app for the TNT games, if you don't have access to cable television through TNT or anything, you can still watch that Mosaic program or one of the different cameras that they have from that are available for the TNT games. You're not going to get the commentary, but who the heck even wants that most of the time anyways? It's almost better to hear the court action, the sneakers squeaking, and to get the 4 different Mosaic cameras that you get on League Pass for the TNT stuff. Why can't you at least offer that, NBA TV? Give us some option to see the action, even if you're not necessarily, if you're going to block out the dang game on League Pass, which we've paid for, and then you're asking why people are not paying attention. Well, your marquee game of the night on Thursday, on the night that you don't even have games on TNT this week.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways.
Is the one game that I wasn't able to see tonight. I had access to the other 3, but there was no way that I could watch this.
No,
and
so
I'll tell you what, a lot of people, especially when I think of middle-aged and older males, typically pick to not have the NBA channel in their package and will more likely pick baseball if they have between the 2. Just from my observations. It's just that it's not something that people include in a lot of their packages. No, absolutely. I know in the I don't even think League Pass is available on my cable subscription package here in Madison, which is another thing that's just right
insane. So the only option I have is to buy the internet version and then stream it on the app. Thank gosh that every single TV is just a smart TV these days, so that's not a hurdle to jump over much these days. But anyways, let's talk about this Houston Rockets Toronto Raptors game, because I at least did get to watch the cool 10 minutes of highlights that the NBA puts up on their Twitter channel after every game. And that is neat that it's available right away, that you can go in and watch every made bucket. Unfortunately, you don't get to see any of the free throws made. So there's certain portions of the game where you're sitting there and you're like, what? We just jumped 5 minutes. Yeah.
James Harden's playing. You don't get to see anything.
Yeah. It was just a 2-minute clip.
And actually he only had 6 free throws attempted tonight. So good job, Raptors.
I wonder if this was a reflection, because if you look at what James Harden did in this game, the Rockets won, and James Harden wasn't the leading scorer for his team. He didn't take the most shots on his team. He's 7 of 11 from the field in 40 minutes. James Harden was 3 of 5 from 3-point land, 6 of 6 from the free throw line. It's almost like he came out and said, okay, you think all I can do is get to the line and score? I'm just going to come in, play defense, and make an impact that way. And he did. He had 5 steals in this game. So 23 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 5 steals, 1 block for James Harden. Nice line. And there's really no criticism that can come his way about being boring for going to the line all night.
And good for him. I'd love to see this more often. That's all I'll say, just to keep it positive. It is funny to me that with Harden and the amount of free throws he shoots per game, and in this game, Norman Powell led the game with 8 free throws attempted off the bench for the Raptors.
Yeah, it's good to see Norman Powell having another good game off the bench. Looks like he's going to stick in that 6-man role for the Raptors now that Kyle Lowry's back and healthy. Some other notable performances from this game. I guess Marc Gasol had a pretty interesting line with 5 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 steals, 2 blocks, 1 3-pointer in 29 minutes.
Partridge in a pear tree.
Yeah, he did it all. Just 24 minutes from OG Anunoby, which is a bit peculiar to me. Hopefully that's not something that becomes a trend going forward for OG. I look at OG and I think we've both expressed that we're big fans of what he can offer in the NBA, based on his size and ability to defend multiple positions up and down the rotations. Ben McLemore, starting at small forward, technically, for the Houston Rockets, with Daniel House coming off the bench with an illness. McLemore had 28 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, 8 of 17 from 3-point land. So McLemore was another big part of this win for the Rockets. Russell Westbrook had a triple-double with 19 points, 13 rebounds, 11 assists, 2 steals, just 7 of 27 from the field. Ouch. 0 of 6 from 3, but I guess did okay at the free throw line, 5 of 6. That is some brutal shooting, but hey, the win happened, so that's good. Just 13 rebounds from Clint Capella tonight. They should probably waive him after that. And then 18 and 11 from PJ Tucker. So a rare big scoring game from PJ Tucker. 5 of 10 from 3-point land. Off the bench, Daniel House had 27 minutes. He was dealing with an illness and was sick after the game. He was saying he was weak, very weak after the game. Ended up with 16 points, 1 rebound, 3 assists, 3 of 8 from 3-point land. So good game for Daniel House off the bench there. And it'll be interesting to see what they do going forward here, because Ben McLemore has actually been playing really well in his spot starts so far this season. And that's something, I think Daniel House will eventually get back into the starting lineup once he's over this illness. But it's been fun to see Ben McLemore have a little bit of shine this year.
The Raptors, with this loss, dropped 2 in a row at home, and they had not lost a game at home up until Tuesday night in that overtime loss to the Heat. And so now they're down to the 4 seed in the East.
Should they take away Coach Nurse's Coach of the Month award after 2 losses back to back?
Absolutely, yeah. Give him the Carmelo award now.
Yeah. The refs would like to challenge your Coach of the Month award.
Should we get on to the final game of the night?
Yes, sir.
All right, we had an overtime victory on the road. The Phoenix Suns get it done 139-132 in New Orleans over the Pelicans at the Smoothie King Center. You ever been to the Smoothie King Center?
No. Smoothies are great, though, especially, healthy ones with like spinach and strawberries.
Likely not what you're going to get from Smoothie King. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I have been to the Smoothie King Center. Nice little arena they got there in New Orleans.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So this was a close game throughout, at least throughout the first half. In the second half, the Suns started to pull away, but in the fourth quarter, the Pelicans really turned it on. Energy spurts led especially by Jackson Hayes, and he continues to impress me. I know just 1 defensive rebound, which is weird to see. He does have some issues giving up some offensive rebounds, but 17 points. He's 6 of 8 from the field, a highlight dunk where he was getting compared to Sean Kemp by Antonio Daniels. 4 offensive rebounds, 5 altogether, 5 blocks, and 1 turnover. So Jackson Hayes looks really good, man. Really good.
Yeah, no, he's I was fairly high on him coming into the draft. So it's been fun to see him land with a team that's got some great outlet passers, so that he can use his ability to get out into the open court on those fast break opportunities, and also just to make some of those cuts or dives to the rim off of pick and rolls when he's setting the pick. So he's definitely someone who is going to work well with some good passing teammates, and you hope to see him grow his game going forward. But ultimately, if he can figure out the nuances of defense in the NBA and continue to use his size and athleticism to get those easy buckets, it looks like he's on track to have a very exciting career. And when we first got together tonight, you like the first thing you mentioned to me was the fact that Jackson Hayes was posterizing people and had that great dunk over Shake Diallo.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't always have eye-popping numbers. I know tonight is one of his better stat lines with 17 points, 5 blocks, but if you watch him, he impresses you with just his bounce, and he's only 19. It's crazy. I think he's going to be really, really good. Like, I think they might have found something there that they all have to be better defensively, not just him. But he shows signs of obviously being a interior anchor. So lots to be excited about with New Orleans, and we haven't even seen the number 1 pick this year. Another note on the Pelicans. So Brandon Ingram went down, and Dario Saric fell on his head, and Brandon Ingram had to go back to the locker room. He did return though, and played well in his return. So hopefully nothing too much. He had a pretty big bandage over his eye. I'm not sure if there was stitches, but it looked like there was probably stitches.
It's some really nice lines, which is not surprising in a high-scoring game that went to overtime. But Lonzo Ball played 43 minutes, put up 20 points, 6 rebounds, 11 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks, 4 of 5 from three-point land, 6 of 9 from the field overall, 4 of 4 from the free throw line, which is maybe the most impressive thing. It's a great line from him. You already mentioned Jackson Hayes, 17 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist, 5 blocks, 6 of 8 from the field, 5 of 7 from free throw line. Brandon Ingram with what's a pretty standard line for him, if not even a little bit down, 21 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. JJ Redick with 26 points, 5 3-pointers. Drew Holiday, kind of a standard line with 23 points, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists, but 5 steals. So dominant there on the defensive side of things. It was fun to see Nickeil Alexander-Walker get a little bit of rotation run in this game. They kicked Etuan Moore out of the rotation to get Nah some run, and that was good to see. On the Suns side of things, Frank Kaminsky was getting another start at center with Aaron Baines being out. Frank had a big game here, 20 points, 6 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals, 2 3-pointers in 33 minutes. Dario Saric, who you mentioned had landed on Brandon Ingram's head earlier, had 9 points and 3 rebounds. I just wanted to point out how bad he was. Followed out in just 26 minutes. So bad game from Dario Saric there. I hope that, I think we've seen enough from him this season already to say that they should probably just bring him off the bench and start a guy like Michael Bridges to help give them potentially better defense. There's an argument to be had there at least. Kelly Oubre, 14 points, 15 rebounds, and 3 steals, 4 blocks. Wow, what a
Yeah, he was
bonkers.
He was incredible. It was sort of like as you see it. He would be really good on defense and then come down and have a stupid shot or a turnover. So it's like if you look at this line, it really does match up with the game that we got from Oubre, and he barely spent any time. He played 47 minutes out of a possible 53.
It's nuts. What do you think about the nickname Knockout for him, since his initials are KO and he's Knockout Gorgeous?
He's
a knockout.
All right,
he's a knockout.
We can go with that. We can go with that.
Plus, he had a big jam in this game on Brandon Ingram. Ingram went flying past him, trying to get there for the block, and Kelly Oubre Knockout just kind of looked down at Brandon Ingram, was like, "You ain't catching me, son."
This is great. The way that Devin Booker leads on offense, it feels like Oubre does that on defense in a lot of ways.
That's cool to hear. It's cool to hear that observation. Ricky Rubio was good to play with his hand issue after being questionable yesterday. 13 points, 15 assists, 4 steals. Nice work there. 105 from three-point land. But the big game of the night from the Suns, I guess we saved the best for last year. 44 points, 8 rebounds, 9 assists, 2 steals, 5 3-pointers, 13 of 13 from the free throw line, 13 of 24 field goals overall in 42 minutes for Devin Booker. Just a great game. And, he hasn't really scored at the level that you would think a guy who has his scoring talent. He hasn't scored at the level that I thought he was going to this season. I thought he would be someone who we'd be seeing scoring 30 points almost every night or challenging for the scoring title this season. That hasn't been the case. The Suns have, even with DeAndre Ayton out to start the season, the Suns have been more of a socialist offense. And I hope going forward that it does get turned more toward Booker, because when you have somebody like him on the team, you feed him and you make everybody else's games easier by relying on him being the high volume guy. It's a Harden situation. It's a little bit different on the Suns team because they have Rubio, because they have DeAndre Ayton. You've got a guy who you want the ball in his hands to help set other players up. And then you've got DeAndre Ayton, who will be added to the mix, who's a great, efficient scorer too, who you can throw a ton of buckets his way. But ultimately, we should see Devin Booker step up and continue to be more of an offensive force going forward this season.
Before I got to see what James Harden did tonight, and because I said I didn't get to see that game, I watched all of this Phoenix New Orleans game, that Devin Booker really had the James Harden night. And I commented to you that Devin Booker, when it's all said and done, I think he can be everything that James Harden is, but fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. There's a little bit of, Booker scores in so many different ways. He gets derided a lot for whatever reason, just narratives built on social media about him being like, not necessarily a winning player, or not in that same echelon of great players and great scorers because of the fact that he hasn't been on a winning team yet. But it's like, look at his situation and evaluate him for what he is. And I know a lot of people throw flack at Devin Booker because of the way that he scored 70 points against the Celtics several years ago. But even that, like, that whole contentious situation where he was scoring points in a game that was essentially over in a blowout, it's still really hard to have done that. Like, so few players have ever done that. So I don't know how the narratives ever went askew for Devin Booker. He's going to be if he's going to challenge for the scoring title several times in his career, if given the opportunity to, he has that talent. And there's a very good possibility he ends up challenging for MVP someday. And so I just can't believe that the narratives ever got askew on him ever not being considered like a permanent all-star pretty much for the rest of his career.
If I'm not mistaken, he already had 40 at the end of regulation. So that this wasn't like numbers inflated by overtime. If people are looking at the box score and thinking that, I believe he already had at least 40 when regulation came around. So one thing I wanted to mention in the first half of this game was an interview during the game with David Griffin, he's not the GM, right? It's the what is the other acronym when you're like in charge of a team?
He's the main front office guy. He's like the president or the executive vice president of whatever
operations, all these things. Yeah. So ultimately, he's the man for the Pelicans. And there was an interesting interview with him and the Pelicans announcers, and he really threw shade at the team and said that he took it upon himself to say that it's unbelievable how underperformed or how bad they've been so far, and it's really like unacceptable. And
did he say it like he was throwing Gentry under the bus or the players?
I think it seemed like a whole. It seemed like as a whole. Like everyone has. It didn't seem like it was one particular person.
I watched part of that interview, or caught part of it, and the part of it that I caught was him talking about Jackson Hayes, but he was also making excuses for Jackson Hayes, essentially saying like, "Hey, we expected this guy to come in and be a red shirt for us this
not
season,
to play at all."
Which was, I mean, if he really thought that, I think he's either blowing smoke up our butts, or he made a mistake there. Like, anybody who watched Jackson Hayes in the summer league knew that he was going to have a role on this team. And especially, like, you're not okay. The only argument that David Griffin can have, because he was the original person to ever say Nicolo O'Malley can play backup center, he probably envisioned a situation where Derek Favors is starting, playing about 30 minutes a night. Nicolo O'Malley's getting backup minutes at power forward behind Zion and Derek Favors at center. And that's where they're getting most of their front court minutes from. Obviously, you don't have Zion, so that takes away your ability to compete in a huge way. Whether, people want, how much of an impact can a rookie make? Zion would have made a huge impact, and he's going to whenever he's ready to play. He just commands that much attention and is that good getting to the rack already. But essentially, what the excuses that Griffin was making was saying that Jackson Hayes isn't supposed to be the starting center, and if they had Favors healthy and available, that their defense would have been a lot better because of the nuances of playing the game. Maybe, but then what are the Pelicans now? Are they actually going to compete for a playoff spot? Because if they are, maybe you got to fire Gentry. As much as I like Gentry in certain respects, there are, even with the injuries they've had, there are certain choices he's made with this team over the course of the season that have just been, I think, devoid of an understanding of what he has on his. The fact that they opened the season with Redick on the bench, that was the most egregious thing. You can't leave that shooting on the bench when you have it available. And then you're playing, and at the opening of the season, he was playing guys like Josh Hart, just a tremendous amount of minutes over JJ Redick. Josh Hart has his uses in the NBA. He can be a good player on a given night. He can be a great player on a given night. But Josh Hart is not a consistent player on both sides of the court. And honestly, I think that's been one of the most egregious things that they've done this season, is putting guys out there who take the ball out of the hands of better players and not really understanding exactly what weapons they have on their roster. So maybe if they wanted to make a quick change, they say, okay, we're going to get rid of Gentry and bring in somebody else. But then again, JJ Redick is starting now, and they're getting closer to getting Zion back. So, and Derek Favors is about to be back. So there's a lot of moving pieces with this Pelicans team, where if you want to make apologies for Alvin Gentry and the way things have gone so far, I think you can, but I think there are plenty of things to be criticized.
He also talked about Zion's timetable to return and how there was a lot of speculation that he wasn't being transparent enough and not very forthcoming with information. And he even name dropped Kristen Ledlow. So that was interesting. It seemed like almost he requested to do an interview, because he sort of like went off like right off the bat and just kind of was spitfiring all these things.
So did he give us an updated timeline though?
He said that the timeline is in place, and this is what he said, that the timeline originally was 6 to 8 weeks. 6 weeks was a couple days ago, and 8 weeks is several days from now. So he said right now we're within that timeline, and we're just taking it slow in between steps in terms of ramping up each level and blah blah blah, all the stuff that you normally hear.
Man, the Pelicans play at the Bucks in 6 days.
Ooh.
I know, and I was trying to talk to some of our boys about getting together and going to that game and buying tickets early, with the possibility that Zion comes in. And even if Zion doesn't play, I mean, they've still got a fun roster with Jackson Hayes and all these other guys,
Absolutely.
But I couldn't sell enough of the guys on that date. So we're looking at going to see Luka on the 16th. So we'll see about that.
There you go.
Yep.
Okay, so that wraps up the 4 games that we had Thursday night, but we've got a pretty good weekend coming up, Kyle. Do we want to talk about things coming up on Friday night and any potential injury situations?
Yeah, we can definitely do that. Hopefully we can fire through this quick for everybody. There are 10 games on the slate for Friday night. First game starting off with Indiana at Detroit. Edmund Sumner has joined the Pacers. He was down rehabbing with the G League team recently, so he's now back with the Pacers. It'll be interesting to see if he's actually in the rotation now, though, with the team getting healthy. We had Edmund Sumner was in the rotation to open the year, but now with the team healthy, it might just not have that opportunity. Jakar Sampson is doubtful with his sore back issue for the Pacers. And then Luke Kennard is probable after sitting out the previous game with some knee soreness. So that'll be a welcome return for the Detroit Pistons. Next game to talk about is the Brooklyn Nets at the Charlotte Hornets. This should be a pretty close game. Wilson Chandler remains out with due to his suspension from PED use, but he'll be close to returning here. He's got 4 more games he needs to miss. Kyrie Irving is expected to miss possibly another couple weeks with his shoulder injury. And, but hopefully that's, there's just so much we don't know about that situation. The Nets are not very forthcoming with injury updates until they are ready to provide them.
Nebulous, one might say.
Yes. The next game to talk about is the Orlando Magic at the Cleveland Cavaliers. Michael Carter-Williams is questionable with a nasal issue that he had after, and he sat out the previous game with it. Tristan Thompson is probable with an illness. I guess from these first 3 games, is there anything interesting? I mean, I guess we're hoping for another big game from Devontae Graham against Brooklyn.
Yes. Yeah, that's that could be another fun game with Nets and Hornets. Only 2 games between those 2 teams, or 3 games, I'm sorry, between those 2 teams in the standings. If somebody wants to see the gory NBA moment of the week, it was shown very clearly up close and personal on MCW when he did get hit in the nose, and it just started just a waterfall of blood. If anyone is trying to see that, I'm sure it is posted online somewhere. That is your gory moment of the week so far in the NBA.
It was akin to when Fabio got hit with a pelican in the face on a
roller coaster. Yeah.
Yes.
Very good.
All right. Next game to talk about.
Fabio joke or a drop. Thank you.
I can't believe it's not better. Anyways, that didn't make sense. The next game to talk about, Minnesota at the Oklahoma City Thunder. Jake Layman remains out with his foot issue. Karl Anthony Towns is probable with a knee problem. Naz Reid is questionable with shoulder issue. Andrew Wiggins is questionable with a thumb problem. And then Shabazz Napier is probable with hamstring issue. Terrence Ferguson has right hip soreness for the Thunder, so he'll be out. It'll be interesting to see who the Thunder slide in there. Oh, sugar plums. Ugh. We're probably going to see Dennis Schroeder start next to Chris Paul and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, which is just the worst.
All 3 of them?
Yeah, because Terrence Ferguson's out. MC Hamidou Diallo is out. Yeah, brutal. I mean, maybe we get Abdel Nader, which I think it'd be better just because it's a little bit more size and it's not throwing a third ball handler into that mix, which is just so frustrating from Billy Donovan. Get your crap figured out, pal. Get the ball in Shai Gilgeous' hands more. And the only 2 people who should be facilitating on that team are Chris Paul and SGA. That's it. Not Dennis Schroeder. Put him in the corner. Let him shoot those shots, and that's it.
Thunder currently a game and a half out of the 8th seed.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Washington Wizards at Miami is the next game. Isaiah Thomas, who missed Washington's game on Thursday, is questionable for Friday. KZ Okpala for the Miami Heat is out. Justice Winslow is questionable with a lower back strain, and Goran Dragic is out with his right groin strain. Man, Justice Winslow's got another injury? Jiminy Christmas. That is disappointment. Anyways.
Yeah, he's a big piece of what they could potentially do. It's I know it's really dependent on Jimmy Butler, but Winslow is still a big deal off the bench for them as they're currently constructed.
I mean, if Winslow misses this game, maybe we get Dion Waiters, a little bit of flash and back into the rotation, but ultimately you're going to look at guys like Kendrick Nunn, Tyler Hero playing bigger roles, Duncan Robinson having more secure minutes, and then maybe even Kelly Olynyk having more minutes secure because Justice Winslow can't steal any of those undersized power forward minutes. You got to expect Washington to get just completely demolished in this game. Coming on, playing the second night of a back-to-back. They're on the road. Miami's coming off a loss, and they've had at least a game of rest, or a day of rest. So yeah, Washington's going to get smoked. Denver at Boston is the next game. Oh man, Denver coming on this second night of a back-to-back against Boston. Marcus Smart is questionable for this game. If Marcus Smart's out, that definitely helps Denver have more of a chance here. Maybe the fact that they got rested a bit in the blowout against the Knicks on Thursday opens up more opportunity for, or I guess less of a concern of the back-to-back issue there.
This is a game of the number 2 teams in each conference, the Nuggets and the Celtics.
Nice. Golden State Warriors at the Chicago Bulls. Yeah. Again, I say this every single night when we see one of these matchup of terrible teams, but you love it because it's an opportunity to watch them play and not have a blowout, hopefully. D'Angelo Russell is probable for the Golden State Warriors. Jacob Evans remains out for the Warriors with his adductor strain, but he is getting really close to a return. Chandler Hutchison remains out with a shoulder sprain for the Chicago Bulls. And I mean, I'm guessing we're going to see another Chris Dunn starting at small forward night. I really don't understand how you have Otto Porter out, you have Chandler Hutchison out, you've already tried to start Shaquille Harrison, you've played Ryan Arcidiacono way too many minutes at small forward, you're starting Chris Dunn at small forward now. Like, at what point do you go, hey, we have a 6'7" small forward on the bench named Denzel Valentine who can do everything except play defense? I mean, give him a shot. Give him a shot at some point. Like, I like Denzel Valentine, though. Maybe it's because he's a Michigan State cat, but I also just like the fact that he's he's like Troy Brown with a better jump shot right now, theoretically. Do you have any thoughts on Denzel Valentine and the fact that he's not really a consistent part of the rotation?
No, I think he is a good do-it-all player, like you said. Or he's like a jack of all trades, but master of none kind of thing. It's a lot of I know he's also a Michigan State guy, but there's a lot of similarities to him in the talk of Draymond, of course, without the defense, as you said.
Yeah, as far as like how they, the
around,
facilitation,
and play a little bit bigger than they are, but not necessarily great at one particular thing. But Boylan's just not going to let him play, it seems, right now.
Yeah, I mean, we've been getting a little bit of minutes out of Denzel Valentine finally, but it's taken like an exhausting amount of churning through the rotation and injuries for Boylan to open up his brain. Los Angeles Clippers at Milwaukee. Wow. You said you got to work during this game. I'm sorry, man.
I know. I'm bummed. This is like, especially if you get Kawhi and Paul George finally like against another top team and see what they could try and do against Giannis. Plus you have the Kawhi versus the Bucks thing from last year in the playoffs, and the Bucks being up 2-0 and then going down 4 straight to the Raptors, and the Raptors going on to win it all. So there is a lot of good storylines, and for you and me, this is also our pick for the NBA Finals. I've had Clippers and Bucks basically since June, so this could be a real good preview of the NBA Finals. What we're going to see.
Yeah, I mean, I might be leaning more toward the Lakers these days, but what would you say if so? Anthony Davis is probably the best player out of all of them. That's so weird to say when you're talking about Kawhi and LeBron, too.
Yeah,
it's difficult. I think Anthony Davis has the potential to be the most dominant out of all of them, to be the guy who steps up and says, "No, I'm getting the championship this year." for the Lakers. Plus, LeBron's still LeBron, and any old man injury concerns that people might have about LeBron, we definitely have those about Kawhi, and he's not an old man. So, I guess I'm just not ready to. It's definitely those three though. Those three teams are the only ones really in contention for it, and this will be fun to see if we do get Kawhi. We should no back-to-backs for Kawhi. He does have a back-to-back this weekend, Sunday and Monday, but if he can play in this game and sit out the next two, for all I care. I want to see the Bucks actually playing a game where they're not blowing the crap out of their opponent too. So we see, full-fledged minutes from Giannis. I want to see a 50, 30, 20 night from Giannis tomorrow.
And the Bucks have been very fortunate. They've missed Damian Lillard with the Blazers. They've missed Karl Anthony Towns with the Timberwolves. They've missed Rudy Gobert and one of the games against the Jazz. They've continually missed, and I'm forgetting a couple other ones. They've continually missed other teams' top player when they've played them. So Jimmy Butler early in the season as well. So to finally see the Bucks play against a top level team who also has all their talent in store, this is going to be a great game. I'm hoping we really get to see the Bucks really take on somebody who matters and is at full strength.
Do you think that the Bucks were getting lucky and these players were missing games, or do you think that this was planned rest because those teams just knew that they were going to lose anyways?
I think it has been that the Bucks have been lucky to miss players. I don't think that anyone is missing the Bucks on purpose, but maybe you're right. Maybe more people fear Giannis than I think.
I mean, I appreciate your reasoned take, even as what should be a biased fan of the Bucks. I would really appreciate you leaning into your bias a little bit more.
All right, we'll see how that goes. I'm just telling you how I really feel. There will be times like when I talk about DJ Wilson, you can hear certain fan bias.
What's hilarious is how we didn't really celebrate his great game from earlier this week.
I know.
We didn't, and after I watched the highlights, I was like, oh my gosh, why didn't we talk about this more? Like,
yeah. Well, it's okay. It's gonna happen more. So
yeah, go watch his 8 of 9 performance. The shots he was making were just. He plays with a lot of stank to his game too, like funky stank, not bad stank. Like, oh dang, that's stanky. Oh, so yeah.
He's good.
He good. I like him.
Yeah.
All right. Any other things to talk? Oh, I do have a correction from earlier tonight. I was right, and then I was wrong. I said that Rui played several years at college, and he did. He played 3 years at Gonzaga. And then I mistakenly typed in Rui Hachimura reference and pulled up his NBA reference and only saw the one season. And then I said,
that makes more sense.
Yes, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah, because he played 1 year with Zach Collins, if I'm not mistaken.
There's like 500 players in the league. It's sometimes hard to keep all the details straight.
Grant Hill and Al Harrington ain't one of them.
No, they've been great this year.
Yeah, spectacular. No turnovers and no fouls all season.
Yeah, Gerald Wallace though has been my favorite player to watch.
Goodness. All right, what else do we got coming up on Friday?
Well, I thought we were done.
Oh, is that the last game?
No, not at all. I just wanted it to be. Sacramento Kings at San Antonio Spurs. I'm sure Coach Popovich will make a terrible decision with his roster once again. Do you think Lonnie Walker will be in the rotation? How many minutes do you think Lonnie Walker will play?
20. I think I would set the over-under at 23.5, and I'll say that he'll be under.
Okay, I would say he's going to be under as well. I'm expecting like 14 to 16 minutes from Lonnie.
Okay. Are you going to buy his T-shirt?
That is a cool T-shirt he put out. I almost if it would have been from like an independent artist or something, I would have retweeted it and been like, "This is cool." But it was an ad from the player, so I kind of felt like, they'll get enough promotion from other people.
Right. It was cool though.
Oh, it's a very cool shirt.
Check out Lonnie Walker's shirt.
Kind of want it.
Yeah, on Twitter, and he's got a link in the bio, as the kids say.
Corey Joseph is questionable with lower back soreness for the Sacramento Kings. Bogdan Bogdanovic is questionable with his right knee contusion now, I guess, or the hamstring that has been limiting him. Marvin Bagley who has been out since, well, I believe all season so far with a fractured right thumb. He is doubtful for this game, but very close to returning. So that's fun to see. LaMarcus Aldridge is the only injury on the Spurs side of this thing, and he's questionable with a thigh issue. Aldridge missed the previous game. We got a big game out of Pirtle starting. Pirtle will be a good matchup against Rashawn Holmes here. So I would think that we see Pirtle start even if LaMarcus Aldridge is healthy, and that would probably push Rudy Gay to the bench, or obviously push Rudy Gay to the bench, and then LaMarcus would probably match up with Nemanja Bjelica. So that's kind of the way I see it spinning out. Still super frustrated by the fact that Greg Popovich hasn't given us minutes with Derek White and DeJounte Murray playing side by side with each other. They're just splitting the point guard minutes, which continues to be an annoyance. But at least we got to see a breakout of Lonnie Walker last game. It's just, remember though, Lonnie Walker wasn't playing a lot of minutes, hadn't done much, came out in the fourth quarter of that previous game. They were down 22. He scores 19 points in the fourth quarter. Like, a lot of things went from still being a terrible coach, Craig Popovich. Oh, Lonnie Walker had an awesome fourth quarter. Now I'm not a terrible coach. Nah, man. Greg Popovich still making a bunch of bad decisions, and I'm not even banking on Lonnie Walker playing a ton tomorrow night unless he gets hot. It's like, whatever, man.
Well, we'll see how it goes. We'll have something to talk about on Sunday's show.
The final game of the night for Friday, the Los Angeles Lakers at the Portland Trailblazers. Avery Bradley remains out with his injury. I don't remember what it is, to be completely honest. And then Gary Trent Jr. is questionable with his hamstring problem. So Los Angeles Lakers at Portland, cool narratives around Carmelo matching up against LeBron, buddies fighting each other, banana boat, all that. Although I don't know if Carmelo was on the banana boat, was he?
I don't know. He might have been on the banana boat. I think he was on the banana boat.
No, I think it was
Dwayne Wade with Chris Paul and LeBron.
Yeah, and then maybe Bosch.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, this banana boat has set sail, and Kyle and I are wrapping up another week in the books at the Morning Hoops Basketball Podcast. We appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you do like, subscribe, comment with your feedback. We'd love to hear what you think about the show, what you'd like to see more of, what you'd like to see less of. We're going to do a show shirtless next week, so that'll be something you'll want to see more of, I'm sure. Thank you again for tuning in. I am Anthony Denu. You can find me on Twitter at Anthony Denu. He is Kyle McKeown. You can find him on Twitter at RotoKyleNBA.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, I went on the Yahoo Sports Fantasy Basketball Podcast on Thursday with Andy Behrens and Dalton Del Don, and I tweeted that out, or you can go on Yahoo and find it, or on your favorite podcast app, go find the Yahoo Fantasy Basketball podcast, and I was on there yesterday or on Thursday as the guest, so got to talk a little bit of fantasy basketball if you like fantasy basketball in addition to just the NBA. Thank you everybody for listening, and as Anthony said, if you can, please help us out. If you go, and even if you have an old iTunes subscription, or subscribing to the podcast on any of the musical apps that you listen to, even if you don't necessarily listen to podcasts on that app, super helpful. Rate, review, subscribe. It really does help us get to the front page, and then it helps with more exposure so that we can hopefully get advertisers and other things to help grow the numbers here. So thank you so much to everybody who's watched, whether it's on Twitter or on YouTube or just listening through your podcast app. We do appreciate it, and we love you, and have an awesome weekend.